Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Community Development Housing General Government. And my mic is off, and I apologize. Welcome to the Community Development Housing General Government Committee meeting. All of the committee members are here, Councilmember Monday, Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Scipio, and myself. And with the clerk, are there any items from the consent agenda that anyone would like to have pulled for questions? Councilmember Clark.
C1.
C1. Could I have a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, are we voting electronically? Please vote electronically. And the motion passes. Would the city clerk please call the item?
Item C1, resolution authorizing the purchase of property in support of the city's affordable housing objectives, in addition to the provisions of workforce housing with a primary focus on homeownership, located in the Northeast Ward.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, good evening. Travis Cochran, real estate administrator. And this item is for the affordable housing project on North Cleveland Avenue. And we have negotiated a purchase price of $15,500 for a lot, a vacant lot, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Clark.
What's the tax value?
It's right underneath what we have negotiated the price
It's in the
for.
right range.
13,200.
More of a comment than a question. We have probably in the Northeast Ward 30 or in this neighborhood, because I've seen the maps, 30 or 40 empty lots that we already own. And citywide, now, I know we have hundreds of vacant lots, not all of them are buildable, but as far as buildable lots, I would say the city owns easily 100 to 120 maybe buildable lots. I just want to caution everybody, we got a nice grant from the state of North Carolina for home ownership, $10 million that Senator Lowe got us, which we're very thankful for. And we got a lot of COVID money that's going in housing. But I'm going to tell you right now, we're quickly running out of it. And when it does, money's going to become a lot more precious. And I'll be happy to support this today, but I do think there's going to come a time, and it's coming sooner than we think, when we need to be building on those lots that are available, that we already own, and that are good buildable lots. For example, I know in Mississippi's ward, down at Happy Hills, the Housing Authority has 40 or 50 lots down there, but so do we. And some of those lots are big lots that could be easily subdivided into lots of smaller lots. So just when money flows freely, we don't question it as much. But once that, particularly Senator Lowe's money runs out, we're not going to have, and matter of fact, Ms. Tony, why don't you put on your list at some point to let us know how we're coming on using that, because we're going to use some more of it today. But I do think we should have an emphasis on building and encouraging building on lots that we already own, and virtually all the lots we own front streets that already have asphalt on them and water and sewer lines that go down them, so there's no infrastructure or minimal infrastructure. So I just caution us to look more closely at the lots, the buildable lots we already own. And with that, I'll move approval.
Chair.
Councilman McIntosh.
Yeah, I was curious as to why this lot was chosen. What's this piece of dirt? What's special about this?
So this is going to dovetail a little bit probably to Councilmember Clark's comments earlier, and I can't remember what month it was, but there was a time when we came back and working with Councilmember Burke and looking at some of this area, call it east of Cleveland, and council approved a pot of money. I want to say it was in the order of $500,000 to acquire vacant lots within this area, call it 25th, over to Bowen, down to 14th, back over to Cleveland, roughly speaking. And so that's where this has come from. So when we started that and council approved that pot of money, we partnered with a broker to go out and acquire and gauge interest in these lots. So we sent out a series of letters, and I think we maybe got a very lukewarm amount of interest on the first round. I think we've sold one or two lots, or purchased one or two lots.
This is our fourth lot.
Fourth. The last time around, we did use an appraisal to up the value that we offered to folks, and this was one of the sellers that took us up on our offer. So that is why you're seeing this lot as opposed to just kind of out of the blue.
There was a strategy involved.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any more?
I made a motion to approve.
Did you get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and probably seconded. Can we please vote on item C1? And the motion passes. Thank you. Next item, we're going to the general agenda item.
Item G1, information on IFB Solutions Job Training Program for individuals who are blind or visually impaired, funded by ARPA-enabled funds.
Ms. Oliva.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the committee and council. I'm Tiffany Oliva, Director of Intergovernmental Affairs and Strategic Initiatives, and I'm pleased to introduce Dan Kelly, who's the President and CEO of IFB Solutions. He'll share an update on their ARPA-enabled project. They received $300,000 to assist with the new hiring as well as retraining of folks to produce products on one of the contracts that they secured. They are among one of the first of the transformational grantees to finish expending their funds. And so I just wanted to give you an overview to let you know that now we have 12 active transformational grant projects, 12 active housing projects, and still 5 others in the general framework still active. So still much work to report on and exciting news to come. So I'm going to invite Mr. Dan Kelly up, and also I think Mike Dyson is going to play Vanna White for us and bring around some of the products that they produce so you all can look and see what they were able to do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for having us out this afternoon to give you an update on our ARPA funds. Again, I'm Dan Kelly, President and CEO at IFB Solutions. Have been in that role for a year as the first blind president and CEO of the organization in its 87-year history. With me today is Tatiana Russell, and she's our grants manager at IFB Solutions. So again, very much appreciate these ARPA funds, and thank you for making such a measurable impact in the lives of people who are blind living in Winston-Salem. Next slide. Great. Just a little background about IFB. We've been in the community since 1936 and certainly hope to be here another 87 years. We are the largest not-for-profit employer of people who are blind in the country. If you recall, our ARPA goals for these funds were to create and sustain jobs for 127 people who are blind or sighted working at IFB Solutions. And we were awarded a $300,000 grant from you all for that as a part for us of $1 million project to bring new complex textile product lines to the community. And all of those jobs in this program are at our 7730 North Point Drive facility that we have been at and in since 1982. Most of our jobs, again, are for these complex textile projects, and we wanted to pass them around to the council members so you get a feel for these complex textiles. 3 of these projects are new to IFB in the Winston-Salem marketplace since we started ramping up production in these items last April. So you'll have the E-wall and I-wall jackets, which, the military has a lot of acronyms. We have the extreme weather outer layer jacket and the intermediate weather outer layer jackets, as well as a specialized suit that every single member of the Army who handles fuel, whether that be for tanks or trucks or planes, wears this fuel handler's suit to prevent oils and different things touching the skin. They're all fire retardant garments, very complex textiles to manufacture, and we're very proud of the work that we're able to do to employ, as you can see here, 71 people on these new lines, which again are all new to IFB since April. We also, having had completed our work with the 127 people retrained, had to double our T-shirt production lines and other products that we currently make as we move manufacturing to Winston-Salem. So happy to have completed on the success metrics so far. But again, the project isn't done for us as we continue to work on ramping up production and sales of these items in this community. Next slide. Thank you. And these projects are what I would call important to the economic development of Winston-Salem as well. They generate on an annual basis around $78 million in business into this community that comes to IFB Solutions for the sale of these products to the U.S. federal government. And this happens because of a program called the Ability One program, which nationally, through 450 not-for-profits across the country, generates 36,000 jobs for people who are blind or have other severe disabilities. So again, very excited about the fact that we get to employ over 200 people who are blind right here in Winston-Salem and bringing these financial resources to the community that we work with our partners and folks rent apartments and buy homes and do all that they need to do in this community because of these budget dollars and federal DoD spending that comes to Winston-Salem. As a benefit to this program, I did just want to put a note and a highlight on this slide that through some third-party studies recently, it's been clearly identified that every dollar spent through the Ability One program with the federal government returns $2.31 to the taxpayer. So a huge benefit to the community as well for participating in creating jobs for people who are blind. Next slide. And that's a huge number because 70% of Americans who are blind, or 7 out of 10 Americans who are blind or disabled, are not working. So a job program that works, this program works for the city and for our country. And it especially works for people like Talika Porter on our team. I just wanted to highlight a personal story of a long-term employee who had to be retrained recently because of the loss of some of our textile lines and the bringing on of some of these new complex products. Talika told me it was okay to share with you that she went blind at birth due to a bacterial infection. And there's no case that is unique. She's been with us for 23 years, and because of this city funding for this retraining program, we were able to retrain her onto the new eyewall or intermediate weather outer layer jacket and make sure that she's able to sustain employment. And all of you know how important that is, as she is a single mother as well, and just needed this opportunity and is a very hard worker. So thank you from me and thank you from Talika for the funding that helped us ramp up these new production lines. And I'll just end with the last slide. And again, thank you all for an incredible commitment. We are incredibly grateful for this gift that helped us re-engineer our production area and get people trained and new jobs in this community, and helped us, as our vision is, to build life-changing opportunities for people who are blind. And
Thank you.
Thank you. If there's any questions or.
Councilmember Clark.
How many employees do y'all have in the Winston area?
We are just over 400 in the Winston-Salem area and 705 across the country.
I was just going to say, my wife many years ago was on your board, so I've kind of kept up with you. And the IFB is truly a jewel for this town. As you said, we're the largest employer of visually impaired people in the country, and you have a facility, I believe, in Asheville or somewhere?
We do in Asheville, yes.
Yeah, so, and I was proud to support you whenever we voted on it, and I am certainly proud of everything you've done. Thank you very much.
We're glad for the city's decades of support on so many of our initiatives, so thank you again.
Councilmember Scipio.
Yes, I'd like to echo Mr. Clark. IFB is a tremendous asset to our community and has been for years. It just demonstrates that when we make things available for people who may have disabilities and do it right, change can happen, positive change can happen. And if we could just get more people to think in terms of creative solutions for all of those who are poor in our community, we can have a dynamic community. I celebrate IFB, and I've seen these wonderful products that you've shown us today. I would love to have one of those suits. They're just incredible, but I know they're military suits, so you can't sell them to us. But the jackets look great. It's just amazing to see what they do at IFB. It's just a phenomenal kind of facility. And thank you so much for your leadership, Dan.
Thank you for your kind words, and our folks are also proud to serve the military since many of them had not had the opportunity to do that, and this is their way to give back, so thank you.
Mr. Kelly, thank you so much for, again, has been echoed, your leadership at IFB. I am proud to say that IFB is headquartered in the North Ward.
There we go.
In the University Shopping Center. I remember when they moved there, built that, when IFB was one of the major companies or organizations in the shopping center when it began to kind of go, shopping centers began to kind of go south. But we are just so happy to have been able to assist and help with you staying here in Winston-Salem versus relocating. And we're proud to be a partner because, we can never determine what the economy is going to do. And whenever it flexes its muscles that affects the people that need the help the most, I'm glad that the city is around to be able to help. My question, Mr. Kelly, is you stated that over 70% of the people that are visually impaired are not employed in the city or the country. But in Winston-Salem, in this area, can you kind of estimate how many visually impaired adults are in our city, roughly, that have not been trained or have not yet to find their way to IFB?
So we are actively working on a study through Vision Serve Alliance to have a more specific answer for you in the state of North Carolina and along county line information within the next 3 to 4 months. So I'd be thrilled to come back to you with that answer. In the last community survey in North Carolina number that I have of working age adults in the state who are blind or visually impaired, it's about 130,000. Wow. And so, extrapolating for the city, we're probably talking 1,000 to 1,500 people who are blind, but I'll be glad to report out on that when I have more specific scientific data.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly, where are you from?
I am originally from Minnesota, but
I kind of figured that.
Happy to be in the South, out of the snow.
Well, welcome to Winston-Salem, and again, thank you for your partnership. Any more comments or questions? Thank you so much for coming to see us today.
Thank you.
City Clerk, next item, please.
Item G2, information on Imprints Cares expanding learning programs funded by city ARPA-enabled funds.
Good afternoon again, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the committee and council, Tiffany Oliva, Director of Intergovernmental Affairs and Strategic Initiatives. For this next presentation, we'll have Imprints Cares, which was another one of the transformational grantees, which received $500,000. And as you'll recall, for this program in particular, we ended up supporting their programs, which would hopefully free up some dollars as well so that they can make more of that capital investment in moving to a new family resource center. So I have Betty West here, who is the Director of Expanded Learning, and there's also various other staff, including Claudia Barrett, Kim Kelsey, and Bill from the board. And so I'd like to invite Betty West up at this time.
Thank you. One of the things, members of the council, that we all agreed we would do is that all of these agencies that we funded with this ARPA money and other funding, that they come and report to us on the regular. I tell people, sometimes government will give you money and we don't see you until we call you and say something's not right. But I feel very positive about this interaction and the relationships with the agencies that we're funding and hearing from them. Ms. White, glad to have you.
Thank you so much, and we greatly appreciate being here this afternoon. And we are, as always, about sharing our work and what we do here at Imprints Cares. Very briefly, Imprints Cares is a nonprofit educational organization that has been here in Forsyth County for over 54 years. I currently am the oldest member of our agency, and I have worked there for the last 23 years. This summer, I had the great privilege of meeting with Dee Dee Adams and some other folks, and we just really want to thank you for what the city ARPA funding done for us. You recognize that we are here to help others, and through our summer enrichment camp, as you can see our numbers, these are the students that we serve this summer. We serve a highly diverse group of children from pre-K through 12 years old. In addition to that, we serve children with exceptional needs. We had 27 full-time students that came to our centers each and every day. We also served rising kindergartners with our Footprints to K program for incoming kindergartners, black and brown children that needed that extra push before they got ready for kindergarten. One thing that I would like for you to recognize is that our camp is all about working families. We are not a 9 to 2 camp or an 8 to 12 camp or a Monday, Wednesday, Friday camp. We are here for all of you, many of you who we have in our programs. We are for working families. Therefore, 500 employers in this community we served, so that they can go to work every day here in our city, in our county, in our hospitals, in our mom and pop shops, all over our county for the summer. We are open every day from 7 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. We employed about 270 staff this summer, which includes our teachers here in the county, retired teachers, our wonderful college students from Winston-Salem State, from Wake Forest, from Forsyth Tech. And so we are just all about bringing the city and county together and bringing our community together to ensure that our working families and our students have a safe and healthy place to go each summer. One of my parents, her name is Carrie. She actually works for the judicial system here in the city. She has a special needs son who is 12, Jonas. We have had him since he was 4. And she will tell you every single minute of every single day. I could not do what I do for the domestic violence victims if I did not have Imprints Cares to do what they do for my child. We are the only nonprofit that works with special needs children age 5, all the way up to age 21 throughout the summer and throughout the school year. Next slide. Oh. Push the arrow button over. And of course, pictures tell the story. These are a lot of our summer enrichment camp photos. We talk about all the learning that went on, all the places we visited. Please know that we take 2 to 3 field trips every week. Most of those field trips are right here in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. We want our children to know and understand what our community is all about. Many parents have sent thank yous to us, reached out to us, told us about how much they enjoy our summer programs. But just so, one parent actually sent this to me last week. We chose Imprints Cares instead of other camps for the caring, loving caretakers year in and year out. And I will close with this as we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King this week. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are we doing to support others? You have supported us. You believed in us. You believed in our work and our mission. And we value that. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to provide this wonderful, safe, and nurturing summer program for our children in Forsyth County. You have any questions?
Any questions from the committee and staff? Councilmember Scipio, and then Councilmember Monday.
Yes, I guess I'm not as familiar with Imprint Cares, but you've been around 54 years.
We have.
Was it a different name?
Yes, we began out as ABCD.
Okay.
Yes. And prior to that, because we're working on the history, because we're getting ready to celebrate our 55th birthday when we get our new upfit in place, we actually began in the home of two women in the West End neighborhood. And they began back then what was a kindergarten classroom, because at that point in time, there were no kindergarten programs. And so they actually began what we are today. And then we moved and became ABCD. And that became a family education service where we serve our families 0 to 5 with home visitation and parenting offerings.
And where are your offices?
Our new offices, we are at 711 Coliseum Court. We also have a facility on Renolda Road. And then in addition, we are also pre-located at the Downtown Health Plaza with many of our family educators working in our local pediatric offices as well. And then with the after-school program and summer camps, we partner with the school system. We have 23 after-school programs that we're running right this minute.
And are your services tuition-based?
They are, but we do offer scholarships on a sliding scale, as much as 90% off. And again, through the funding that we received from you this summer, we were able to offer additional scholarships. This year alone, though, we have given out over $125,000 in scholarships from Imprint Cares.
Thank you.
Councilmember Monday.
Thank you for the presentation. I think we worked together
We
when I was
did,
at Sawtooth.
Kevin.
We put
did.
together several of your field trips and
Yes.
art classes for the kids. So Imprints has been an organization that I've thought a lot of for a long time. And this is just a curiosity question. Was one of those women Helen Kleinert?
Yes.
I had lunch with her daughter just a few days ago, and she
Julie.
told me that she was instrumental in starting
Yes.
the organization when it was ABCD.
With Julia, yes. And Woody is still here as well. Woody
Yes, he is.
Kleinert, her husband. And actually, he's working closely with us as we develop our new Family Resource Center at Coliseum.
He's the most active 93-year-old volunteer I've ever known in my life.
He is, isn't he?
So thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you. And thank you all again. We could not have done this without your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item G3, ordinance amendment modifying Chapter 4 and Chapter 5 of the Unified Development Ordinances to increase the maximum number of units allowed per building in the RM5 residential multifamily district, to increase the maximum building height allowed in the RM8, RM12, and RM18 residential multifamily districts, and to revise the threshold for required buffer yard standards. Public hearing date is set for February 5th, 2024.
Mr. Smotherman.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Vice Chair Scipio, and other council members. I'm going to try to do a brief summary of UDO CC 25, which is proposing a text amendment to do three things. One is to increase the maximum number of units allowed in one building in the RM5 multifamily district, is to increase the maximum building height allowed in the RM8, RM12, and RM18 multifamily districts, and it revises the threshold for which buffer yard standards are required. The amendment is intended to reduce, we've had 5 or 6 rezoning requests to higher density multifamily districts, not to gain additional density, but to take advantage of some of the dimensional standards, and that which would allow more design flexibility than was allowed in the lower density multifamily districts. The purpose is to enable multifamily developments to meet their maximum zoning density while accommodating site constraints such as creeks and floodplains, steeper slopes, stormwater improvements, etc. The amendment increases the maximum number of units per building within the RM5 district from 4 units to 6 units. It also increases the maximum height in 3 multifamily districts, RM8 from 40 feet to 48, or approximately 4 stories, RM12 from 45 feet to 60 feet, or approximately 5 stories, and RM18 from 60 to 72 feet, or approximately 6 stories. The amendment stipulates that new structures in the RM8, RM12, and RM18 districts that have a height greater than 40 feet must be set back a minimum of 50 feet from adjacent properties that are zoned for single-family homes. Parking may be located within that 50-foot setback, provided it is outside of any required buffer yard. The amendment revises the buffer yard requirement from applying to multifamily and townhome developments of 5 units or more to applying to developments of greater than 1 acre in size. The amendment, we think, will right-size dimensional standards for multifamily districts to accommodate site constraints, which is becoming more and more common. It will reduce rezoning requests while maintaining compatibility with adjoining single-family homes. I also think that this will allow for greater ability to utilize existing multifamily sites. The Planning Board had a public hearing on this matter at their December meeting and unanimously recommended the amendment. And that's all, and I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Smotherman. Councilmember Monday.
I think this is sorely needed. I'm glad we're making some moves in that direction. Some of our rezoning cases that have been approved, but the developments have not started, are they still bound by the old regulations, or could they take advantage of these new regulations?
I'll let
Mr.
Director
Murphy.
answer that.
They would be subject to the regulations that they were approved under, so long as they begin under the time frame. You know, basically, if you have an approval, they have to be begun within 2 years. So they would be grandfathered in under that scenario.
But grandfathered in under the less lenient guidelines, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Yes, that question comes up because I have a couple who have not started. Thank you.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Not so much a question, but just an
Councilman Scipio.
observation. This is a very good way to just utilize the existing land that we have for development. The alternative to this is turning projects down that might fit without this, but it also cuts down a lot of the anxiety that the neighborhood feels. I mean, I think the general public doesn't understand. Arbor Acres was a good case of this. The public got worked up about the fear that they were going to increase traffic over what was existing. And it wasn't an increase in the density. It wasn't an increase in the density. It was no more units. It was just a difference in the way they were configured. So to me, this is an appropriate thing to do at staff level rather than at city council level. So I'm in support of it.
Any other comments? Councilmember Scipio.
Yes, all regulations come to pass because something happened that says, well, the way we take care of this next time is by changing a regulation or rule. These changes will add density to these different structures in the various residential zone. It's always interesting to me to see why we had limited it in the first place. I don't know how long that was, ago that was. And I don't know if there was a reason why we kept them at a certain height. So that was one of my concerns. My second concern is who's actually driving this amendment. Is it developers? Are we trying to give them more options? Or is it we're looking at other cities and they're making these kinds of moves and our brilliant staff says this is what we should be doing?
Councilmember Scipio, to answer your first question, this would, or to kind of address the first question and/or issue, this would not provide any additional density. It would allow more design flexibility. Under the current, we've had a number of instances where if you look at the number of attached products where folks have had to come in and ask for RM8 because the RM5 only allowed for up to 4 attached, and based on topo and other things, they needed to have 6 attached. So in analyzing it, we felt like that was a good compromise to go from 4 to 6. Similarly, we've had some projects that have had to request RM18 zoning even though they were at an RM8 or RM12 density because of site constraints, because of topo. You had some 3-foot front, 3-story front, 4-story back, 4-story front, 5-story back. And if you look at the overall height and how that is measured, it would put them over the RM8 or the RM12 district standards. So they had to go to RM18, even though they were only proposing 7 units per acre. When you have RM18 on the map versus RM18 on the map versus RM8, it's a very different feel because it's much more dense feeling, even though they're not providing that number of units. To answer the second question, this was a staff-driven initiative. We have had to bring a number of zoning cases before both city council and the county commissioners where the question has come up, why are they requesting such a dense district whenever they're not asking for that number of units? So in order to try to better right-size our ordinance, we discussed it with the planning board and with the city and county management staff and put it on our work program for this year as an issue to address. So this came from us. We did look at what other jurisdictions have done. We did talk to the development community about it, and of course have had no concerns have been expressed to date.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Scipio, I'll also add a little bit of the history piece of that. You said kind of why did the rules start out this way and get to the point they are now. I think when a lot of those rules were probably implemented pre-UDO, we didn't have the stormwater ordinance, we didn't have the tree save ordinance, we didn't have a lot of the regulations we have now, so developers had a broader canvas to work with, whereas now they're constricted by some other regulatory requirements that kind of make the puzzle a little harder to put together. So I think those changing conditions over time has warranted a little bit of rethinking of this.
Thank you.
Councilman Mundy?
Thank you for that, Mr. King and Mr. Murphy and everyone else in the planning department. I hope as you go forward, you look at other ways that we can change zoning to be more accommodating, particularly for the generations coming behind us who don't want RM9, so RS9 rather.
Okay. I just want to make a comment again that as we continue to embark on implementing housing strategy, priorities, and initiatives and ordinances going forward in the country, the biggest conversation right now about housing is being held with developers, builders, people that do the job. And what we've come up with and heard from many conversations across the country, from the Fed all the way to the city level, is that, regulation has its purpose. But some of the regulations that we approved years ago does not fit the mold that this country and cities need right now. If we're going to address issues, we need to, again, as I said, my housing summit, we need to talk about with the community and developers and everybody as to what all goes into building housing. People think, they don't look at the ordinance side of it. They just want to see the buildings go up. But there are regulations from the feds all the way to us that we have to adhere. And right now we found out after the past 2 or 3 years in talking with other cities, attending conferences, all of us, that we have got to now reimagine how housing is being done in our community as well. So Mr. Smotherman, thank you so much. May I have a motion on the floor, please?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilmember Clark and Mundy. May we have the vote? Okay. And the motion passes. Thank you. It has come to my attention that item G4, staff has requested to hold this item until next month. Is that correct, Ms. Strelman? Yes. City Attorney, do we need a motion to do that?
That's okay, as long as there's, a consensus to hold it in committee.
Committee?
Yes.
Consensus. Thank you. Next item, City Clerk.
Item G5, consideration of items related to funding to Glabex Consortium, LLC, for development of 8-unit single-family homes for affordable homeownership located in the Northeast Ward.
Ms. Strelman.
Good evening, MPT, other members of the committee, and other members of council. I'm Tanya Skillman, Assistant Housing Development Director. I was trying to, can I hit the arrow to maybe show a design? Sorry. I think I need some training on this, huh?
You're good. We got you.
Thank you.
Which one?
I wanted the,
House plans?
yes, please. Thank you. Okay, very good. I just thought it would be nice to have this to show.
I think it's nice too.
Thank you. I presented this information on the proposed development plan from local MBE developer Glabex Consortium for scattered lots in the Northeast Ward in November. Council previously approved to sell 4 lots to Glabex for the development of 5 homes for affordable homeownership. Glabex currently proposes to purchase 3 additional lots for $3 and to support deeper affordability, requests a forgivable loan from state ARPA funds in the amount of $240,000 to assist with the development of all 8 units. The city's funding subsidy is $30,000 per unit. The funds will be dispersed from the city during construction to help to reduce interest-carrying costs, which potentially allows additional savings that can be passed to homeowners at closing. The estimated market value for the homes is $235,000. With the subsidy, the units will be priced at $205,000. Each of the homes will be approximately 1,300 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths with 1-car garages. Similar to the funding structure recently approved by council, upon sale of the homes, the city will provide the homeowners with a 15-year down payment assistance loan equal to the original sales price less the subsidized sales price. A portion of the loan will be forgiven annually over the 15-year term. The balance of the loan must be repaid if the owners decide to sell before the term of the loan ends. The lots will be subject to the 15-year affordability period pursuant to the Housing Justice Act and the Affordable Housing Ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Ms. Strelman? Councilmember Clark, then Councilmember McIntosh.
I was just going to say, I like the way this deal is put together. I think we've been subsidizing affordable apartments in the 25 to 30 range, so this hits the sweet spot. And it is a loan to the homeowner.
Yes, sir.
That is forgiven over the life of their owning the home. So I like the way you put this together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman McIntosh.
Can you walk me through the funding or the homeowner assistance? So we're putting $30,000 per door into the deal up front in order to basically to lower the purchase price, right? To bring the cost to developer down.
Right.
So that the homeowner can buy. Walk me through how the loan works.
So we have a forgivable loan, and that's essentially a grant to the developer that will provide during construction. And so it'll offset some of the costs, as you mentioned, during construction so that they won't have to borrow as much. And so that should help to pass on some savings, hopefully provide deeper affordability. And then once the upon completion of each of the lots, then a portion of the loan will be forgiven based on the subsidy applied to the lot that's sold. And so in this instance, it's $30,000.
So what we're forgiving over that 15-year period is that $30,000?
That's correct.
Okay, not an addition, there's not an additional amount of money going towards
No.
down payment assistance?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Monday.
I know some of the affordable housing that we've talked about, particularly when people are buying, we assume it might be a first-time home purchase. Is that the assumption with these units as well?
Yes, yes.
Habitat, I know, has some first-time homeowner classes and training to help ensure their success, because there are so many things that people don't know if they haven't owned a home. And then I think sometimes we offer assistance with a first-time home buyer getting the funding or the financing that they need. So do we have anything in place to help with those particular variables?
Well, so for us, we're looking to, and I always forget the name of the nonprofit. Thank you. The Center for Home Ownership for many of our home buyers. And through that program, they are required to go through homeowner assistance programs, as well as, and one thing that it was I think encouraging for me to learn is that if they go through that, then they have access to additional funding, up to $50,000. So with what we're adding, there could be an additional $50,000 added on, subsidy added on to that. So they're really incentivized. I can't see a reason why
Are we making sure that they know about that resource?
Well, we're seeking our homeowners from
Through that resource?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Councilmember Scipio.
Thank you. I just need a little clarity on how we are managing and how all of this works. So we're subsidizing the developer $30,000 per house. And that's doing construction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That developer turns around and sells the house for about 205, from what I'm looking here. Is that right?
The sale of the house will be $235, but our subsidy will bring it down to $205 in this instance. So it's below the line.
So the home buyer, am I looking at a house that I qualify for 205 or 235?
205. As the home buyer.
For the home buyer?
Yes.
That's what so I'm selling it to the home buyer for 205, right? But the 30,000 to the developer is forgivable?
It's forgiven, transferred, forgiven. So as each lot is sold to the home buyer, then we're gonna forgive the loan for the developer.
Okay, that's okay. You got me
Okay.
clear on that. So now the homeowner buys the property for 205, and their commitment for us is that they have to keep the house at least 15 years?
They don't have to keep the house, but in order to have the loan forgiven completely, they would need to keep the house for 15 years.
The down payment loan?
Correct.
The
That's correct.
first-time home buyer?
Yes, thank you for that clarity.
Okay.
Yes.
So if they keep it for 15 years, they then can sell it. If they sell it prior to the 15 years, what is their obligation?
They would have to repay the balance of the loan, whatever, the $30,000 in this instance, whatever is remaining,
No,
whatever.
The down payment
The
amount?
down payment assistance of $30,000, whatever year we're on. So say they sell it, in year 10, then whatever year between 11 and 15, they would owe that amount back to the city. And they would have to, it would still be subject to the land use restrictive, the covenant on the land. So that would be where they would still have to sell it to someone, an affordable home buyer.
I guess that's the other part of that puzzle. So in 10 years, I want to sell this house. I got a down payment loan of 30, and I may owe still 10. So when I sell the house, which we would perceive has appreciated in value.
That's right.
So it appreciated, let's just say that 230. So I take my equity out, repay the loan of whatever I'm due. But the caveat, because there's a restriction on this property for our affordable housing. Who do I sell it to, and do the people I sell it to have to be an affordable category?
Yes, they would. And, you know, we've talked about this, and I've spoken with Attorney Carmen in depth about this. It would almost be self-governing, because with that restrictive covenant on the deed, no lender is going to sell to a buyer who does not meet that criteria. So either they would, so that would be something that they would need to, when they run the title search, then the lender, the real estate agent, everyone has to be involved to know that that restrictive covenant remains for the city. That's notice to the world.
Can I make one?
Yeah, go ahead.
One point of clarification. Excuse my voice. The covenant allows for a sale up to someone who is in the workforce category, so they're within 81 to 120% of the AMI. So it's just not, it's not only the affordable category, it allows it to go up to workforce category.
Because my concern was, are we then forcing people to not have their net worth appreciate?
And that allows for that.
But having a higher income bracket for the next purchaser.
Right.
Is the key. And that's an assumption we're making. So either we're depressing the value in these neighborhoods if we're not allowing higher income people to come in to purchase the house, but at the same time, we're trying to maintain it as affordable.
Yes, I see your point. But I think that there is there's somewhat of a condition for getting the assistance from us, right? And that is, you wait 15 years, essentially, and then you can have the full value of the house. We're gifting people, essentially, this $30,000. And so for them to receive the full value of that $30,000, they have to wait 15 years. That's the condition of the funds.
And ideally, in 15 years, the property should have appreciated so they can get the full appreciation.
Yes, ma'am.
And they would have been lifted with that first-time homeowners grant.
Yes, ma'am.
But we don't have anything for people who may have owned a house at some previous time, and now they're coming back into the markets. Is it first time?
It's not only that, but that's the target, but it's not only that.
I mean, our assistance is just first time, the first time ever.
No,
ma'am.
No.
Qualifies based on income.
No, it's not just them, but all can come. There's no restriction on that. Anyone can apply. Now,
For the homeowners, I'm just talking about that because we've always said it was the first-time home buyers assistance program, and that's not true?
Not this program. No, not the program that I'm presenting to you. It is not just for first-time home buyers. I agree with Councilmember Mundy, though, that many probably will be, and the reason is because they have access to more subsidies through the county and the state.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman McIntosh.
The county's program is strictly first-time home buyers.
Right.
Correct.
Right, so this is a sort of a delicate dance between continued affordability versus gentrification.
Right.
Correct.
And we had differences of opinion on whether it was 15 years was the right amount of time or 7 years. And I would still like to see 7, but this is really an effort to make sure that we don't see that quick flip for a quick buck to get out, and then you lose the affordability aspect of it. My question is, this loan puts us in second position.
Yes.
This would be a second mortgage, essentially, and that will go away at the appropriate time.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Clark.
I know every program's different, but the programs I have seen in the past that were for first-time home buyers included people that hadn't owned a house within 5 or so, 10 years. But Ms. Scipio, I brought this up when we adopted that ordinance, that we are putting a limitation on how much this property can appreciate for the first 15 years. And now, the fact that it is workforce, which is a higher thing, you could
Bracket.
still have some pretty nice appreciation and still qualify.
Agreed. I think that, you know, I don't know that I see where you're saying where we're putting the restriction on it, but, I mean, it would be the market, as you mentioned. And so, you know, if the home buyer decided that they're unable to, the homeowner, unable to get the price that they want, that it's appraised for, then that's a decision for the homeowner, right? To say, well, we're going to wait, we're going to sell. I mean, I think in that, I don't know, there is some suppression, but it's still up to the individual homeowner.
Well, if they did get an offer for $500,000, they'd just have to repay the loan?
Just pay it off, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
But are there any stipulations, any exceptions to the 15 years? Someone has a better job, but that job means relocation to another city. They're then penalized if they're going to have to sell the home. Is that right?
I wouldn't consider it a penalty because, again, you have built in the ability to sell it at a higher price to someone in the workforce category, which is much higher.
So who is in charge of the realtor? Is it just like selling any other house to the realtor? So the realtor then has to screen the potential buyer for their ability to come into that neighborhood. Is that right?
The ultimate check is.
I'd like to have a motion, please. The discussion is going on now for 10 minutes.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
The motion has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any more discussion?
Madam Chair, I think the public needs to know exactly how this thing works. And I think that we can vote on it. But at some point, I do hope that we literally let people know how this process is to work and just don't assume that they understand every component about it and how it will impact their lives in the future.
Motion is on the floor. Councilmember Clark.
I think it would be helpful, Ms. Tony, if we could actually have an example. House, they're going to write a check for $205,000 to the builder. They're going to give us.
A visual.
And they're going to take a loan from a bank or somebody, et cetera, and then show at that point in time what the workforce cutoff is and how much this house could appreciate immediately.
Sure.
But understanding it, even if it appreciates, the $30,000 city loan only goes down $2,000 a year. So just give some examples, and I think that will help, because it is complicated.
And it goes back to, and you all gonna get tired of me, the housing summit. Anytime we go to conferences and meetings and conventions, Ms. Tony, there's always examples in a workshop. Mr. King, Mr. Rao, city attorney, city clerk, you all know that. So again, we are now getting closer to that point. Whereas we're going to have some one-on-one housing type initiatives and meetings, or Mr. Pate, a housing summit. But he knows he's working on it with the assistance. He's working on it. We have a motion on the floor. Mr. Councilman Monday, 1 second. Go ahead.
I think there's some confusion. We're not limiting the appreciation of the house or the value of the house or the equity that's in the house, because that is determined by the market.
Correct.
We are slightly making a smaller pool of potential buyers. So if there's any, it's not a penalty, but it's a constraint. But overall, this is a good deal. They could also be getting grants and other financial assistance that immediately puts equity on paper, and then when they sell it, it puts it in their pockets. So
right.
I think I just wanted to make that point clear.
Thank you. Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Please vote.
We voted. Did you not get it?
My computer keeps blacking down, going dark. It's okay. And the motion passes.
We only sent it to him.
I know. Next item, please, City Clerk.
Item G6, information regarding the development of 17-unit single-family homes for affordable homeownership located in the Southeast Ward.
Ms. Strillman.
Okay, so local experience MBE general contractor, J&L Construction, seeks gap financing to build a subdivision consisting of 17 single-family homes available for affordable and workforce homeownership. The development plan also includes conveyance of a city-owned lot in the Southeast Ward near the intersection of Sides Road and Kings Tree Ridge Drive for $1. The developer proposes that the city provide a forgivable loan from state ARPA funds in the amount of $924,112 that will be drawn down during construction. The funds dispersed from the city during construction will help to reduce interest-carrying costs, which potentially allows additional savings that can be passed to homeowners at closing. Similar to the funding structure recently approved by council, upon sale of the homes, the city will provide the homeowners with a 15-year down payment assistance loan equal to the original sales price, less the subsidized sales price. A portion of the loans will be forgiven annually over the 15-year term. The balance of the loan must be repaid if the owners decide to sell before the term of the loan ends. The homes will be approximately 1,800 square feet, 2-story with 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath with a covered porch, patios, and paved carports or garages. In communication with J&L Construction, staff requested that the development plan created for Sides Road blend well with the character of the neighborhood, supports the current neighboring market values, and should be streamlined for affordability. J&L presented a market analysis for the area that indicated very little new construction in that immediate area. However, the newest homes in the area are comparable in size and price point to the design plans proposed for the site. The market sales prices for the project are estimated to range from $314,000 to $339,000. The sales price for the subsidized homes will range from $210,000 to $255,000. The city's subsidy amount for the land and funding combined is $68,118 per unit. The total value for the project is estimated to be $5.5 million. Upon completion, the tax revenue for the city and county combined will be approximately $74,000 annually. The lots will be subject to the 15-year affordability period pursuant to the Housing Justice Act and the Affordable Housing Ordinance. Thank you.
Any comments, Councilmember Clark?
The unsubsidized value that you just mentioned was $314,000 to $335,000.
$338,000.
$338,000, okay. Which is about $100,000 more than the homes we just discussed with the prior.
That's right.
I have concerns with this, with the size of the subsidy at $68,000 per unit. I don't consider a $335,000 market price house to be an affordable house for the folks that we're looking to help. And I'd be willing to support something, but it's got to be in that $30,000 per unit range, because that's kind of what we've done across the board with apartments and other homes that we've done.
I understand.
Anyway, so that's where I'm coming from. I can't support it at this level.
Well, I think that, staff worked closely with J&L, and they were provided the market. And so It's not, I think with the diversity of Winston-Salem, we have to recognize that there are different neighborhoods, right? And so every house will not fit into every neighborhood. And so for Sides Road, we determined that just based on the market, we don't want to affect other market values by placing a $250,000 or $200,000 home on the site. And so that's when we were considering we would have to go up in the value. We still want to help some folks, and so those subsidies are larger. It's city land that we own. We want to be able to provide.
I don't mind any problem with the guy building a $335,000 house. I just don't think the city should be subsidizing. And Mr. McIntosh swore that he can comment on this. Right near where he lives, there are 200 homes being built in the 350 range. No subsidy, and they paid market price for the land.
But anyway, Councilmember McIntosh after Councilmember
It's the
Clark.
same value house, 338 and 350.
It's the same value house, but we're subsidizing it to 210 to 255, and so we're allowing some other folks to move in.
Up at 350 with no subsidy, zero.
But I'm targeting folks who make 80% AMI or 80 to 120% AMI. Typically, folks who can.
Support it. Sorry.
Okay, I understand.
Councilmember McIntosh, then Councilmember Scipio.
So 11 of these are going to be affordable.
That's right. Affordable and workforce. I make sure I
And yet
get that
we're
definition.
subsidizing 17 of them at $68,000.
17 supports the full development. That's correct, with the 68.
So we are in effect subsidizing non-affordable.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's just like if you have a multifamily project where you have funds that come into the project specifically for certain units. However, you have a full development. Without these funds, we couldn't get the subsidy. We couldn't subsidize the units to where we want them to be for affordability. So while it supports the full project, I wouldn't say that,
So
we wouldn't.
There's $1,156,000 in subsidy in the whole project.
I beg your pardon?
$1,156,000. So that's 17
With the land.
68. Okay, but what we're saying is we're going to spend that 1,156 to buy down 11 of the sales prices.
Essentially, however, in order to make the project work, in order to maximize the affordability for the other units, I had to allow some market rate units in the project.
No, agreed. But that, to me, works out to a $105,000 discount on those 11 units.
Some of them, yes.
That seems high.
Yeah. Is it possible that we could subsidize the 11 units that we want for affordability and not provide subsidy for the 6 that are going to be market rate?
That's what we're doing essentially, because only the homes, the funds will be dispersed amongst the 11 units. So our subsidy will be forgiven and then provided as a home ownership loan, down payment assistance to those 11 units.
You see, you got this deer in the headlight look up here. I keep telling y'all better get that housing summit going, because this deal now is where we can spending more and more time. We have less money, and everybody is kind of like confused as to which way they should go. Councilmember Clark.
Mr. McIntosh's math is right. You're subsidizing 11 homes to the tune of about $110,000 per home. And my basic concern with that is we're saying there's 260,000 people in the city and 11 families are going to win the lottery, and we're going to give them a $100,000 subsidy to go buy a $330,000 house. That number is too high. A $350,000 house, $338,000 house is not hitting the market where I think we got the money from Raleigh to use on it. I like the other one, $30,000 on a $230,000 house, but $110,000 on a $350,000 house.
How much did we subsidize the Happy Hill Habitat project per house?
Let's not use that as a yardstick.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. We at that point now.
160.
165.
I didn't vote
160
for
per
that one
home.
either.
And how many houses was that?
13.
13. And that was 13 at 100 and what?
165.
165.
Is this time sensitive?
This is an
This is information only.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like we got.
Again, I would like for us, again, when we bring these items going forward, because until we have the summit, you're going to have to provide more information to the council, and you may probably need to do it in the information that goes out prior to any meeting. Whenever we see committee, whenever we see anything that's coming to us going forward, an agenda, it's got to have more information, because I foresee all of the next investments that we're going to be doing, they're going to get a little bit more complicated for this group. And we're going to need a little bit more details to the deal.
I understand.
Okay?
I'm happy to provide that information. I thought that I provided, so it would be helpful if I get some
And Ms.
additional
Stribman,
feedback.
like I tell staff, I've been saying it for almost 15 years, this is not personal with us. This is business, because we don't know what you know. We don't know what any of you know. We only know the information that you bring us so we can make the best decision. So when you provide us with as much information, with some examples of how we can make a decision, then you won't get this deer in the headlight look. Like, we're going to ask questions, but we won't get that look that I'm starting to see a lot of every time we now talk about a housing development or project. Councilmember Monday, I think you had a comment.
I think sometimes you're stuck between being very top line and giving us information at this level versus getting in the weeds. And so I think we're just saying we want to get in the weeds for this one, given the value. But I was just going to suggest, if this 924 is what it takes to get the developer, would they consider looking at a no-cost loan, a no-interest loan that's repayable, so we're not subsidizing totally 105 or 110, whatever it is. But it's for information, so we don't have to take any action at this point.
It is. Councilmember Scipio, last comment.
I guess the other thing that concerns me is for neighborhoods that haven't had investment in it for decades, we have to put out more. This particular area can attract market rate. So I don't think we need to have to put out so much more in neighborhoods where we know those homes can sell and get an attractive set of neighbors. I think you have to look at the whole thing historically. But my concern was the cost of the homes. They look wonderful. I don't know who could afford it, given the current salaries. I don't see that as being affordable. But that neighborhood, that side of town, there would be people who could buy. On the east side of town, it's not that way. So I think sometimes we have to make the changes necessary for the whole city to have quality housing.
Chair, one quick.
I have Councilmember Clark, Councilmember McIntosh, and then we done.
Just real quickly, for everyone's edification, I did not vote for the Habitat at 165. But that was a different situation, because the Housing Authority has got 50 or 60 lots over there that they can't do anything with because of a HUD restriction to build 13 houses. And I'll call it a lost leader. It's when you walk in a grocery store and the bread's on sale at the front and you think you're getting a good deal, and you go around to the back and you pay too much for the peanut butter or whatever. But it's a lost leader, because by building those 13 houses, we free up 40 or 50, 60 lots, whatever it is, a huge number that we can do whatever we want to with. But this isn't a lost leader. And I've said enough on that, but let's just understand that the 13 habitats is a little different situation. With that, I'll hush, we can go home.
Councilman McIntosh.
Real quick, we can take the per unit subsidy down quite a bit if we increase the density on these lots. Right.
Agreed.
And the market will accept that. I mean, let's look at that because it really does reduce, it gets a lot more families in homes with the same amount of money spent.
I think,
Madam Chamber.
right, I think it's the zoning and,
We do zoning.
yeah. And the community. I'm not aware of the history, but
Yeah.
Patrice has whispered to me about the community.
One last comment, Ms. Strillman and Councilmember Larson.
Because it used to be in my ward, I'm particularly familiar with when we transferred it. It's located right beside the Otter water tank, and it was a significant piece of land. And we made a point of making owner occupancy, which you're apparently doing. But also, we discussed the affordability. Market rate was too high for these houses. And we were looking at the option of something like a cottage court or tiny houses or something that would be different from anything else in the city, that would be sort of a pioneering effort that would work within the neighborhood itself. It appears to me like what we're building now is a bunch of houses that look like Kingstree, something adjacent across the street perhaps, but maybe not standing alone as an individual sort of development. And I'm just kind of curious as to if we're ever going to be able to build affordable houses that are not looking like they're houses that are market rate. That's just what this looks like. Looks like we're trying to do affordability with market rate houses.
I think I agree with you, sir. We are. And that was in keeping with the neighborhood. Maintaining the consistency of the aesthetic of the neighborhood and market values.
I understand that. And it's a controversial neighborhood, and they did not want, the one thing they did not want is rental. They were not interested in apartments and whatever, and so we were sort of reaching an agreement that, they could, as long as we could do something tastefully designed, work within a residential owner-occupied format, that it would probably sell better than anything else. I'm sure if we could, I agree with my colleagues that if this is marketable for market rate houses, then I'm sure everybody would agree, go ahead and sell it for market rate, but the city doesn't need to subsidize that.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Strillman, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, just keep in mind what I asked for this group. To the petitioner for J&L Construction, I guess that means back to the drawing board and trying to figure out with Ms. Strillman and how we can make this a win-win. City Manager Pate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The risk of prolonging your meeting, I know you're trying to finish this up. I just want to say this is brought out as an informational item, and so the feedback that you're given is exactly what we need, and it continues to point to the fact that we need a standard policy in place of how we're going to approach these issues instead of doing everything as a one-off item. Our intent is to come back to you in March, so that don't expect this to come back in February. We're coming back in March with some additional information on housing. It probably won't be the full housing summit that the Mayor Pro Tem wants. That'll probably be in the summer. But in March, we're going to come back in with more of a work session type of a discussion with council as a body on what do we want to do in moving forward, so we can have a little better information coming from you, so you don't have the deer in the headlights look every time we bring a new proposal forward. So I just wanted to let you know this hasn't been in vain. We hear you loud and clear, and we are working to bring you back what you need.
And one point that we echo it, but we need to believe it. We're not just building houses or assisting with the building of a housing for just one group or one demographic. We have said over and over, and even in our studies, we're building housing for everybody. So we can't, you know what I mean? I just want everybody to keep that in mind. I know that we have a need for affordable housing, workforce housing, middle housing, duplexes. I got it, single family. But if we're building housing for everybody because everybody needs housing. Thank you so much. Councilman Burke, go ahead. You want to weigh in? All the rest of them got to talk.
Thank you, MPT. Okay, I just wanted to say when you get together with staff and you're trying to come up with one unified plan throughout the city, please remember there are areas in the city where no investment has taken place in years. And so we have to understand the value of the properties in other locations, and we might have to make a little bit more of an investment depending on where the location is, if we're going to build our city up all over. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
We need a house.